Good afternoon. Welcome to the Senate Committee on Education. Today is Monday, April 8th, 2024. If I didn't have this, I wouldn't know what day it is. Thank you, staff. This is our 3:00 p.m. agenda, and we are in hearing room 229. This meeting, including the audio and video of remote participants, is being streamed live on YouTube. You will find links to viewing options for all Senate meetings on the live and on-demand video page of the legislature's website. This Zoom meeting and YouTube live stream event will include the 3:00 agenda for the Committee on Education. In the unlikely event that we must abruptly end this hearing due to major technical difficulties, the committee will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business on Wednesday, April 10th, 2024 at 3:01 p.m. in room 229, and a public notice will be posted on the legislature's website. I'd like to take this time to remind our testifiers that due to time restrictions on our hearings, we will be limiting testimony to 1 minute per testifier per bill. For people participating remotely, please remain muted and video disabled until shortly before it is your turn to testify. When I call your name, unmute yourself and your time will begin. After your minute is completed, staff will mute you so that we can move this hearing along in an orderly and efficient manner. Thank you. Okay, let's start with GM 520, submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Board of Education gubernatorial nominee Kahele Duklo for a term to expire 6/30/2026. Is Kahele present? Thank you for being here today. I think we have a list of testifiers in place. Oh, let's start with Superintendent.
Hello, Chair Kidani, Vice Chair Kim, members of the committee, Keith Hayashi, Superintendent, testifying on behalf of the Department of Education. The department stands on its written testimony in support of this measure. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. David Miyashiro, Hawai'i Kids Can.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, stand on our written testimony supporting our.
Thank you. Sherry Nakamura, He'e Coalition.
Sherry Nakamura for He'e Coalition, we stand on our testimony and support.
Thank you. Kate Stanley.
I can't stand up, can we, Stacy?
Sure you can, Kate. You can do anything you want.
Chair Kidani, Vice Chair Kim, and members of the committee, I'm Kate Stanley, and I'm testifying in support of the nominees Dukala, Otori, Karuya, Kapi, Low, and Chung, all in the first testimony, and a separate testimony in support for Lord Takumi. I urge you to recommend to the Senate confirmation.
Thank
You
you.
can tell she's experienced.
And on Zoom, we have Ernie Wilson
Not present on Zoom, Chair.
in support. Thank you. Kahea Faria.
Also not present on Zoom, Chair.
Also in support. Manawai Peters.
Aloha kako, dear senators. My name is Manawai Peters. I stand on my testimony that has been submitted.
Yeah.
I speak today on behalf of my personal relationship with Kahele Duklo as a fellow public school classroom teacher from 1997 to 1999 at Anuenue School in Palolo. Since that time, I've had many other opportunities to work with Kahele. As you know, she has been a public school student herself, a public school teacher, an instructor at the community colleges and at UH Maui College, and she has shown the dedication and perseverance needed for this position. It is often said that if you want a job done, go ask a busy person. Kahele is that busy person. I don't know how she does it, frankly, but I'm amazed by her work and her evolution as an educator in Hawaii, and I urge this komike to support her nomination. Mahalo nui.
Thank you very much. We have a number of written testimonies only, and also we are going to hear all the GMs before we ask questions. So We're moving on to the next nominee. Oops, sorry.
Excuse me, I'm looking up the nominee.
Wait till the end. No. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, sure. Okay, let's bring up our nominee. Mr. Flo, please. Thank you for being willing to serve. Testimony for us.
Just aloha, everybody, and I've been serving on the Board of Education since July of 2023. I am super committed to public education. I'm a product of public education. Even in my job, we prioritize our partnerships with public education. And I really am busy, but I'm busy doing the things that I really believe in and I really support. And I'm honored to be considered for confirmation.
Thank you. Do you want to let the committee know what your current profession is?
Presently, I'm the Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs at UH Maui College. I've been a professor there for 20 years previous to that, and Department of Education teacher in Kaiapuni for about 8 years previous to that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Questions?
Sure.
Questions? You don't get away that easy.
Thought I got away with it.
Sorry. Can I continue?
Please.
Thank you.
Would I dare stop you?
As we know, the board is very important, and the families and the parents have many concerns that they oftentimes come to the legislature with their complaints, and yet we tell them, there's a Board of Education, you need to go to the board. And sometimes the board does not seem as accessible to them. So I'm hoping that the board will make themselves more accessible. So I just wanted, since you've been serving to July 2023, what is your position on including and making financial literacy mandatory and part of the curriculum instead of just an elective?
I think I support that, especially now I'm a little close to retirement, not close, but I thought, I should have learned something better. No, I think it's an important piece that has to be part of curriculum.
So why isn't that the board have done anything? Because we've introduced bills time and time again, and it's not gone forward, and we've brought this up to the DOE, and they testify and say, well, it's an elective, but, we're finding that with college costs and students getting into debt, not realizing the kinds of debt that they're going to be saddled with for decades after they get out of school, and just being able to manage through life, about loans and everything else so that they can survive through all the fiscal issues that arise in our life, that this is not part of the curriculum. So if it's so important, then why haven't there been something by the board to mandate it?
I don't know yet, but I think that's something, there's a lot that is mandated, and there's a lot that should be mandated, and I think probably the first thing is to figure out where it might fit. So, when you have graduation requirements and, you're doing the calculations, right? Sometimes it's difficult, but, there are also standards that you can use to embed that in different places. And I think there are different ways that you can do it. And I would first start with an assessment, like, is it a standard in a particular class? Maybe it's not a whole class, but is it being done and where is it being done? And if that's not enough, then how do we strengthen that and where do we do it?
Well, I guess that's my issue. Why haven't it been done before? Why haven't it's ongoing? And, it's great to have all these other requirements. And yeah, you want to take speech, you want to take English, but you know what? If you cannot balance a checkbook and you cannot balance what you get paid, I don't care how smart you are. I don't care what kind of A's and B's and 4.0s you are. You're not going to be able to get through life doing that. And you wonder why people are into bankruptcy, or people, end up committing suicide because all of the stress is on them. And we stress so much, early college. Great, go to college, but then you don't know, you cannot manage your finances. So I don't know if we're placing the right emphasis on what should be taught at kindergarten through high school, because we teach them to put on all these stress and issues on them, and yet they cannot even balance sometimes. They cannot give change. You go to a store, if the register don't tell them how much change to give, our students cannot give change because they know how to count the money back.
Because they just tap their phone sometimes. It's so
No,
easy,
but
right?
then
So
it
they
says,
don't-
yeah, if you give them,
don't
$20
do it.
bill and it's $18.58, and it says give them back $1 so much, that's what they do. But if they have to count it out without the register, they can't do that. I've seen that happen. They can't do that.
It's
So
gonna be the next app on our phone.
how to count out the
I mean,
change.
it's a lot, right? I mean, I think things are changing. Before, I know in my generation, you would learn by getting a job and having to learn how to do those things as you do it. And I think that's happening less. So I mean, I don't know how come as of now, but.
Well, I hope if you're confirmed that that's going to be something, I'm going to ask so I hope all of the people here that are up for confirmation will be answering that question. And then the other question I wanted to ask is, you talk about in your questionnaire about holding the DOE accountable. So I'd like to see, how have you held DOE accountable? Can you give us an example? The time you've served?
I mean, I think one of the ways is to be prepared and to not be afraid to ask hard questions when we are presented with things. I am still learning how the board works and how I work there, but I do think that part of our job is to make sure that the DOE is doing what the public and the policies say that they should be doing. So I think to be
But how do you hold them? Because were you aware that they had $1 billion in CIP
Yes.
that
yeah.
just, they didn't have enough money, so it was on the books, yet it's incomplete, all those projects? How have you held them accountable for that?
So one of the things is to find out what the problems were, right? To kind of dig down into what's happening, what's not working, and how you move forward with that. And I think that they have done some of that work in the new strategic plan to address some of the processes that aren't working for CIP and R&M improvements. So I think, I tell people this all the time. It's a hard job. It's like running a small country. It's, almost 300 schools. I work in one school, and we have issues with CIP and repair and maintenance. Part of it is procurement. Part of it is the way, you work with contracts. Part of it is, you might not have enough money to finish the contract, or you waited a year and it went up, $2 million. We encounter that all the time on one campus, and you times that by 300. And it's super complex, but I think that they have come up with a plan through that Oreo, we're calling it Oreo, but really it's about what has to be done, what were the problems, and how can we move forward and create a process that hopefully works better. So part of it is looking at the way things are budgeted between CIP and repair and maintenance, looking at contracting things instead of doing a separate contract for all of these things, trying to figure out how can we group them together.
Right, but we have a problem now. The contracts were already let, and the problem is there's not enough money to finish the contract. So what have the board done? And in addition to that, we have $1 billion ready to lapse in a couple months. And yet we're funding, we're appropriating another $500 million for CIP this coming year, if you look at the CIP list. And so we cannot even finish the projects that's started. And we've got projects that are going to lapse, and yet we're giving more money. And I'm not sure how we handle all of this. And that's what the board is going to be faced with. And I hope all of you board members that's up here have some thoughts about this, because these are crucial issues that is happening now. And yes, process is important, how we got here. I mean, we had SSFA, and that hasn't worked. So it's like, we need the board members to be able to step up and make sure that we're overseeing and having oversight of the administration and holding them accountable and not just taking what they say for granted, but challenging them as to how are we going to do this? How are we spending our funds? I found out that we're spending money on so many software and apps and applications, thousands and thousands of dollars. Instead of doing surveys by hand, we want to have an app for everything. That's fine, but it's going to cost us $86,000 just to get the app and then $63,000 every year. I don't know if the board knows that and is holding them accountable for those things. You aware of that?
I'm not aware of that particular
Yeah.
one, but definitely aware about the budget and the CIP and the RNL. And we've been having a lot of discussions about how we move forward to fix that.
Thank you. You're just one, so I don't want to just throw it all on you,
Well,
but just.
so
you have to
Kahele,
be
just
first.
expanding on what Senator Kim is talking about. Can you discuss or give us some thoughts on how you think the board might take a more active role in partnering with the DOE and private sector partners to help with some of these issues, including, the problems that we're having with spending down on our CIP?
I know that they have some new processes in place that we still yet to see if that's going to work. But it is a strategy forward, so I think, it's smart for us to invest in that. We have discussed different ways of dealing with repair and maintenance. Right now, the way that we are contracting and all that kind of stuff, isn't working quick enough. It might be working, but it isn't working quick enough. The process of having to change an order, come back, increase in price, all of that kind of stuff. So we have been talking about, how do you streamline that? How do you maybe create a different structure for that? So I know in conversations in the committees and with other people, they're talking about, stuff that they did before and maybe they can implement again, or, new things moving forward. Like they used to have repair and maintenance teams go through schools, right? So you get them for a week and you get stuff done instead of having to do an order for each thing that, you need fixed, right? Putting in a work order and waiting for it to happen. So I think we have to envision sort of changing the system and how it is presently being done, because we are very sure that it's not working.
Well, I appreciate that, because that is exactly what the board is for, to, help the superintendent make some of those decisions. And they're not always easy to see, and the answer is not easy. But, we do have some concerns about, lapsing CIPs, et cetera. I do appreciate and look forward to that discussion that we have with the superintendent, the rest of the board. Members, further questions?
Yeah.
Senator Favela?
Going forward, since we're talking about the CIPs and the funding, I was all ready to talk about economics and all that, but since we're talking about CIPs, what I think we should do with the DOE and the Board of Education is go out into the field and look how the private sector is run. We let the bidders know how much money we have, not how much money you think this project will cost. We're really telling them we get $9 million for this project, put in one bid. Then we get 3 bidders, we take the loser actually, because usually that's the guy that's the lower bidder. Then later on, he's the higher bidder, afterward all the project changes. So why did the Board of Education and the Department of Education go and look at how the private sectors put out the bid? Let them come and say, this right here will cost $15,000 for bid, but we know we only get $9,000. That's the problem. We keep getting the lower bidder, then we get the short end of the deal. Then, like you said, constructions, people protest the bid, the construction costs go high. In the private sector, I can tell you, because I was working for Parsons, North-South Road. They put in the wrong amount of money. Guess who ate it? Not the state, not the taxpayer, the developer ate the costs of the mistakes and whatnot. So when you go out there and bid on one job, you gotta make sure you bid on them correctly. But because the state get deep pockets, that's what they do, change order. We give a prime example, Ching Stadium. It's one of the ones that is really, really disturbing, from 2 million to 6+ million over. Yeah, but that's what we gotta change. If you guys like change anything, Board of Education, Department of Education, change the process on how we go about going out and selecting the contractors. Not necessarily the lower bidder, don't give them the amount of money that we have. We told everybody in the stadium, right? We get 300 to 400 billion, $1 million, whatever, to build a stadium. We don't even have the money. So why we don't say, hey, excuse me, Senator Kim, how much you think it would cost to build a stadium? And then let all these contractors do that. And then we pick the one that's closer to what we get in a bank, instead of broking a bank before the project starts. So it's something that I think if you can consider. And the last question I have, and you're gonna be hearing this as a broken record, but given to your extensive, being on Hawaiian, Hawaiian studies hasn't been implemented in the language, hasn't been occurred in the public schools. Even though it was Hawaii, 1978, Hawaii's revised statute said English and Hawaiian should be taught in a school as that. And it was, now to this day, I'm hearing for a lot of people that English was highly, because we never have enough Hawaiian education teachers. But today we have, but there is not an equal playing field. So I'm hearing that if we do Hawaiian studies, that we're gonna lose some of the other curriculums. Well, it's the same with home economics. If we go ahead and teach economics and bring economics back into the school, we're gonna have to lose something. So instead of inquiring these things together to make sure that we don't lose what was given to us, should be implemented. So I just want you to think about that. If you don't have an answer, then that's fine, but I just wanted to let you know that, you will be hearing that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I will answer that because I should. I was a professor in Hawaiian studies for 20 years. I do think, it also, we know that in 1980, right, we have 4th grade, 7th grade, and 11th grade. I do think that we have to assess that, look at what we're teaching, if those grades are appropriate, if it needs to be strengthened, changed, and then we move forward that way. I do think, it's been a long time, and things have to be updated.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you for the questions. Thank you, Kahele. Sorry, Kahele. Question, Senator Hashi.
Not too much of a question, but I think Kahele being the Maui rep, I think I'm very excited that she'll be potentially serving on the board if confirmed. I appreciate all of the work that you've done thus far. I think your strength is the experience that you bring from the university and the inner workings of the university, bringing it to the Department of Education. I think there's a lot of synergies that can take place between the DOE and UH. I think a lot of it is amongst workforce, not only amongst the folks that need to go out and get some type of workforce training after their time in high school, but I think it's even the DOE internally needing their own workforce of teachers. And so maybe you can kind of elaborate on your work and your thoughts on developing workforce, not only for the DOE, but also amongst the community, and how you think the university and the DOE can kind of get more on the same page, or do you think we're there? I know we've had a lot of conversations about Maui specific, but from a system perspective, what are your thoughts there?
I think, education is always evolving, right? And it seems to be these cycles of different initiatives that come up and down. I think for workforce, we're in a time where we see a lot of workforce pathways coming up in the high school. So in my job at UH Maui, we see them trying to access early college before it was just gen ed, right? And liberal arts sort of classes, and now we see it going into things like welding and construction and teacher pathways, right? So making those connections, trying to figure out how you encourage students to be interested in education very early on, which is very difficult to do. And our pathways, we have one at Maui High and Lahaina Luna, they're very small, they're struggling. We're trying to figure out how we do that. Other ways, we have another project called the Ho'opili Teacher Pathway Program, which is just something that we picked up and said, we have a huge need, we have a little bit of money, we have plenty of connections in the community with their DOE partners and parents and just community. And so we began to create this bridge into teacher pathways. So not redoing any of the programs that are there, but just trying to give people a head start into them with free coursework so that they can connect to one of those programs while they work. I think that's a really important one. So I know the apprenticeship program that HCSB is looking into. I've been to a few conferences where states have those programs. I think that's a really promising way to go because we do have a lot of people who are interested in teaching but cannot give up their job in order to do that. So I think, there are ways, and, my thing is always like, there's no magic pill. I don't believe in magic pills. I believe in looking at the problem, doing some research, getting, knowing what's going on, and then putting together the best plan forward and doing something immediately, not waiting, right? So I think those are the things that I'm looking forward to doing.
Great. I think I look forward to pushing the policies forward at the board level and making sure we stay focused on that. At the end of the day, we need 1,000 new teachers a year, right? And we're only probably producing 400 to 500 here in Hawaii. So I think it's something we need to continue focusing on, but I look forward to your leadership. So thank you, Chair.
Other questions, members? Thank you, Kahali. Next, we go to GM 710, submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Board of Education, gubernatorial nominee Mary Hattori for a term to expire 6/30/2027. Is Mary here?
She's present on Zoom, Chair.
Yeah. So, Superintendent, please.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Hikayashi Superintendent, standing on a written testimony in support of
Thank you. David Miyashiro.
Aloha, Chair Kidani, Vice Chair Kim, and members of the committee. I'm David Sun Miyashiro, Executive Director of Hawaii Kids Can. I stand on our written testimony in strong support of Dr. Mary Hattori's nomination to the Board of Education, and I'd like to offer some personal notes. As someone who has known and worked with Dr. Hattori for close to 7 years, I would like to highlight the deep empathy and care that drives everything she does. In a number of settings, from the work she has done with the DOE for multilingualism to the Celebrate Micronesia Festival, she works to make Hawaii a more safe, welcoming, and inclusive place for kids and families. Even today, she is calling in late at night from Rapa Nui because she never stops advocating for the solidarity and empowerment of Pacific Island communities. She has the expertise, experience, and heart to make sure the kids who tend to fall through the cracks in Hawaii get the supports they need and deserve. I'm proud to support Dr. Hattori's nomination and to call her a friend and mentor. Mahalo.
Thank you. Sherry Nakamura. Thank you. Kate Stanley, you don't have to stand.
I'd like to add that on reflection of all the nominees that you're getting today, I think the governor should be thanked for sending down such a strong set of nominees. This is the best board I've seen nominated in a number of years.
Thank you for that. Yes, I do agree that we do have a very good nominees. Thank you. We have written testimony from the governor, of course, and Susie Varas-Lum, written testimony in support. Masao Ueda, written testimony, and Walter Kahumoku, also written testimony. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on this measure? If not, members, questions?
Yeah. Aloha, Mary.
Aloha.
Thank you for being willing to serve. So I guess I'm not sure who's actually been serving and who's brand new. So I assume this is you haven't attended any meetings as of yet?
Correct, yes.
So based on the question I asked earlier regarding what might be your stance on fiscal literacy, would you like to opine on that?
Sure. The implementation plan and strategic plan for the DOE says we envision a K-12 public education system that prepares all graduates to be globally competitive and locally committed. we can't be globally competitive if we don't have financial literacy. The wealth, there's a publication called The New Wealth of Nations by the World Health Organization. And it says that the best, most effective way for developing nations to advance is through education of all citizens. So education is core. I also understand the DOE just wrapped up task forces on computer science, financial literacy, and civic engagement. And the reports will be considered by the board probably next month. And so I think, the conversations are happening within the DOE, and now is a good opportunity to move forward on that.
So do you think it should just remain an elective, or you think it should be part of the core curriculum?
I think it should be part of the core curriculum. I think we are coming out of the pandemic, severe economic distress. How can we proved ourselves to be resilient, but how can we fully recover if we don't have basic financial literacy? And there are lots of financial literacy programs going on, but I think it is a basic necessity for success.
I certainly agree with you wholeheartedly. So my next question is that the question was asked about the role of the Board of Education to hold the Department of Education accountable. So in the case of this, where we're talking about financial literacy, and time again, we've introduced measures, and the board has not, DOE has not really implemented that. So how would you hold the board accountable? I know you gave us some statements on the policy and what it should look like, but you didn't state how you would hold them accountable.
Sure. I think one way we could hold them accountable is through the standing committees of the boards, or there are measures in place in the implementation plan. So, my assumption is that we as board members working through those committees will look at those measures, performance measures, and actually hold the system accountable.
But what does that look like? I mean, what does accountability look like? Are there consequences? Because we keep hearing, and I keep asking, not just this board, but other boards, including the Board of Regents, as to the accountability issue. And, there's no reprimand. I'm not just saying they need to be reprimanded, but that seems to be absent completely. And so it's like there is no accountability.
Well, I think, having new board members gives us an opportunity to change our perspective on accountability. I've served on accreditation committees for many large institutions where we actually have best practices. We have standards that we hold heads of schools or people like the superintendent, hold them accountable with specific measures, and there have to be consequences.
Okay, I appreciate that, and that's excellent response. I just hope that the board will, and you folks are all busy people, and like they said, want something done, give it to a busy woman to handle. But even though that is the case, there's a lot of issues that we don't even realize, like the issue I brought up about the use of a lot of consultants, the use of getting a lot of computer applications, and the money that's being spent. And while they may be good, is there someone that's measuring what are the benefits? And I'm going to bring this up later on, probably to the chair, since he's familiar with a lot of the education issues over the years, about the kindergarten assessments that we spent $1 million for. And I don't know if the board ever took that up. But those are the kinds of issues that I'm pointing to as far as accountability. So I hope that with a new board that we're going to have a new attitude as to how we move forward. So thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think my comment, and this goes to Senator Kim's question about why not include financial literacy. We know that there are only so many hours in the school day. So if you're going to include financial literacy, what do you cut back on? And I think that's something for the board to take up, to include the superintendent and his administration, but I think that's a discussion that needs to be had, because this issue has come up, I guess, for the last, I don't know, Donna, 3 years, 4 years, yeah. And it is, I think, important because even in my own grandchildren, I know I don't think they are that financial literate, to be honest, and yet, you know, today's students, you know, have more pocket money than my days anyway, so, you know, how yeah, that makes it even easier. So I think, you know, my request basically is just for the board with the superintendent to take up this issue so that maybe, you know, next session we will have something more concrete to look at and to move forward on and discuss. Thank you. Members, further questions?
Yeah, just
Senator Favela.
just topping on what you said. So we already started session, a lot of the bills went in and was no room for this, but the kids from Campbell High School came and it was surprising because they all had special bills and stuff that they wanted to discuss with their senator. But their number one concern is what my two colleagues are talking about. That's not enough of that in the school. And that if they had a chance to go back, they wish that they had that in their freshman year or even before going to high school, because they see exactly what my colleague's saying. A lot of their friends already is stressing out. They can't even balance on how they're gonna balance the situation when they go to college, because it comes with scholarship, funding, money. They never had that kind. I mean, even what Senator Kadani said, these kids have more money in their wallet than most of us in this room, driving around $5,000 scooters, you know. Who's teaching them economics, you know? So that's something that I you know, echo my colleagues that I would want to see next year more, so we can go forward and help our kids. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, further questions? Thank you. Okay, our next GM 711, submitting for consideration gubernatorial nominee Ken Puraya for a term to expire 6/30/27. Ken here. Superintendent, please.
The Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Keith Hayashi, Superintendent, standing on a written testimony in support of Mr. Puraya. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. David Miyashiro.
Stand on written testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry Nakamura.
We also stand on our witness.
Thank you. Kate Stanley, do you sit on your written testimony? Thank you, Kate. Other testimony and support, Sean Tajima, Campbell High School, Kaz in support, Linnell Dilwith, Kaz, Kaimaki Roosevelt in support. Did I see Warren Haruki here? Former board chair also in support. Anyone else here wishing to testify on this measure? Members, questions?
Can you hear from the nominee?
Go ahead, Ken.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. The hope is during the second term, you know, that things that were being discussed by the committee today will be things that we, you know, will be looking at and working on. I think one of the things that, you know, I have written in questionnaire that came up is a review of programs. And that's one of the things that, you know, we've been trying to work on to determine as far as the costs and as far as personnel needed, you know, so that it is the type of thing where assessment, evaluation of all programs take place. We're not going to be able to do all 250 some odd programs at one time, but it's a process that we need to take place so that we know specifically what is being done within each of the programs and what effect it has on the students. So things like what Senator Kim is talking about, the financial things. Are there programs that can provide that kind of support? So that, we are able to see the growth of students. And I hope that I'm around to see that kind of thing happen, because after spending 42 years in the department, this department the Department of Education provided me with, a lot of experience and knowledge. I'm hoping that, we can do the same thing for all the kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, members?
Yes, thank you, Ken. Having served on the board, how do you find out some of these things that the money's being spent on? I mean, the budget is so huge, the education budget is so huge, and to be able to be aware of some of these kinds of expenditures to determine whether or not they're in fact necessary or just good to have, how does the board get its hands around that?
I think we're in the process right now of trying to, set in place a plan. Board member Duclos talked about this, what we call Oreo plan. Basically, it's overall real estate optimization. So we're looking at a plan. There's 6 phases within the plan. And within each of the phases, there's short-term goals as well as long-term goals. So this plan is to basically take care of the kinds of problems that we're facing right now. And again, truthfully, I think I talked to both, Representative Richards and Hashimoto. Yes, there's problems, and, we need to deal with that, and we need to do a better job of, like you're saying, how do we ensure that the money that is being provided is spent appropriately?
So, CIP is one thing, because those are large dollars and they're project by project, but you also have the day-to-day kinds of operational,
Right.
the expenses like I brought up, when these software or these applications that is nice to have.
Right.
And more specifically, this is an application to survey the kids about their lunch, to see, because so much food is being tossed away, and, and to also have data. And yet it's like, well, what happened to the days where you go to class and then the teacher passes out a paper and say, okay, what did you like about our lunch? And then bring it back and take it in to survey the school. Instead of having to go to a computer, somebody has to program it, somebody has to interpret it, somebody has to pass out the data. I mean, it's great to have, but practicality, I mean, how is that benefiting us? And the cost, does it outweigh the cost that we're spending, that kind of money, when it can go to helping a child in the classroom that may need assistance? I struggle with that every day. When I hear about the kindergarten assessment that cost $1 million, and we found out before the money was spent, raised the concerns to DOE, and yet they still went ahead and they still contracted with a mainland firm, and they still spent $1 million that it was good for only that time certain, and there's no use. 6 months later, these kindergarten kids have outgrown that. But yet, that $1 million could have gone to those kids that really needed the help, right? In that kindergarten class, the teacher can assess them in 2 weeks. The teacher is really good at assessing them. But how does the board, you folks, get to know that is going on, so that you folks can then say, wait a minute, we need to reassess some of this? And yes, it was a law passed by the ledge. I didn't realize that it was going to be this kind of assessment with a mainland firm, and that was going to cost $1 million. And I told them, come back to the ledge and we can redo this bill or amend this bill. But that wasn't done. They didn't take it upon themselves to do that. So who's holding them accountable?
I think that's one of the things, like you're saying, the accountability. As a board, it's making sure that we have the information provided. I think a lot of it in the past, we weren't provided, or the board wasn't provided information to know specifically what was going on. One of the things, that the questionnaire that Senator Kidani provided was what is, I think, the accomplishment that I feel very strong about. I think there's a very good working relationship between the board and superintendent, which was not in place prior to, the current situation. I think that's important because with that, then we get to understand what the needs are, and then we get to see where monies need to be placed. Again, this assessment evaluation is key to determine why a program needs a certain amount of money, how you're going to spend it, what personnel you need, so that when you move ahead, it's like you're saying, are you spending the money on some program, and how is this going to benefit the department? Is it going to be effective in providing us the information that we need so that when we assess a certain child's need, it's that specific time and place it'll take care of that child.
So how do you get that information? Do you sit and wait till the board gives it to you? Do you go out on your own? Because I know it's a voluntary position. Do you watch our hearings and see what bills we're introducing? Because a lot of times, if we know there's a problem, the public comes to us first, we introduce a bill, and then the bill goes year after year. So does the board look at that and say, why are they introducing this bill? Is there a problem that we're not unaware of?
I think, again, it's that type of thing where, we're spending the time, again, trying to see specifically what bills are in place and trying to ensure that the funding that's being provided.
Well, not even what bills are in place, but what bills are being introduced, because if there's a problem, then is that something that you folks should be looking into? Because I've heard from other boards that say, we learn more from the legislature than we do from the administration presenting us information, because they don't give you all the information. I'm not saying this necessary board, there's other boards that they don't necessarily give you the information. And, I go out and I research a lot of stuff before I come and ask the questions. And a lot of times I don't want to ask a question if I don't know the answer. And so, but that requires work, right?
Right.
And so I know the board, and that's why I always ask board members, do you guys have the time? Because it's not attend one board meeting.
That's correct.
You have to prep. And a lot of times they give you the agenda the week before and expect you to vote on something. Without having the time to really look into it, go and ask the parents, ask the teachers, ask the faculty. That takes time, but that's the kind of research needs to be done in order to be accountable,
Yes,
right?
that's correct. I know for myself as well as the board members that are serving now, they have and we have gone into the community to get information. We've worked directly with superintendent, we work with the staff. I've attended meetings with specifically, staff members like directors and things to get information about what's going on. So it's not the type of thing like you're saying where it's okay, we're gonna meet Thursday and that's all. It is. I'm lucky, I'm retired, so I have a little more time to go out and do some of this stuff. But all of them, every one of them, in a situation like the Maui fires, board member Duclo, she spent time outside of her job doing those kinds of things. So it is the type of thing that we're seeking information.
Okay, but yeah, because stuff like, I'm sure
I
you weren't
understand.
aware of
I
the $1
understand.
million for the
Yes.
assessment. You weren't aware of these programs being done and the money's being spent. So those are the kinds of areas I'm concerned about, not the really big issues that you're probably aware of, but all the day-to-day that adds up. And that's why the public feels that they always say, the education is too top-heavy.
Yeah.
Because there's all of these expenditures that is unaccountable for.
Yeah, and I think that's where, again, like I'm saying, that assessment evaluation of programs has to take place because then,
Personnel.
yeah, and that's
personnel.
correct. And on top of that, with that assessment evaluation, it is looking at,
Okay.
do we have enough personnel or is this program top-heavy? Does it need to be trimmed? Do we need to move people around? And I know in certain situations right now is looking at reorging certain, groups. I think that we talked about that, Senator Hashimoto.
So we'll look forward to getting this information. And I know you folks only come before us every 4 years or so, but, we still want to hold you accountable.
I think,
4 years from now.
Senator Kidani has reached out to us to say if there's concerns that we have, that, she's more than willing to hear what the things are. And we need to take her up on that type of thing also.
Thank you. Thank you. So I think one of the things that I would like the board to discuss is this issue that we have talked about for 3 or 4 years, is the financial literacy aspect. Is that it's important to some of, the members of our education committee, but also for the future of our students and
Understand.
our community. But I know that also entails, what do you give up? Because there's only so many hours in a day, unless we shorten some of the class time for other whatever and, put in another class. So those are some of the things I think the board needs to discuss.
Right. I think, again, it's looking at programs and determining, where possibly it can be fit in, as part of, it's like, before we had health, we had,
Home economics.
and, all different kinds of programs. And, these programs got cut. Now, the needs may be there again, so where and how do we, implement this kind of thing? How do we put it back?
Students can't even sew a button on their pants, the
Wow,
boys. I mean, it's stuff
some
like
of us
that.
are hit and miss because that's what I had to do. So, it's a lot of poking fingers and things, but,
But then,
okay?
Further questions, members?
Yeah, Chair.
Senator Richards?
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Ken, thanks for the follow-up, and spent a bunch of time interviewing most of the candidates. Just follow-up thing, we've talked a lot about students. You and I also visited on teachers, and specifically the bullying side of some of the teachers. Can you just give a few comments on that and your thoughts? And you've heard the concerns of the senators when it comes to the financial side and fiscal side. I really appreciate that because we visited a long time on that one. But then as we're taking care of students, I think we also got to take care of our teachers too. So just your thoughts on that.
I think the whole system, I mean, it takes a community to, to educate children. It's the same thing, with teachers. I mean, administrators, which I was one, we look to see how we can support all teachers. And I think that's important. It's also educating administrators how to deal with concerns and problems. And that's, I think, the training that has to take place. And, that may be something that in the Leadership Academy that the department has, where it's going to take up more than just how to do the academic side, the financial side, but also, the human relations also.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. We had long conversations. Look forward to hearing some of the other comments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
I'm gonna keep talking about it. So, I graduated in '86. And we had all that. I never liked cooking. I never liked sewing. I like eating. But I just think, I want to understand, where in the DOE that we decided to totally veer off of that whole plan? Because, as years go by, how I would end up waking up to all of this is when Common Core came to town. And when my daughter came home with her homework, and my wife was trying to help her with her homework, and she told her mom, that she's doing the math wrong. You're doing the math wrong, that's not how we do it there. So we're going back and forth, Chair. So I just want to know, the Board of Education and the Department of Education gotta start ping-ponging around. Gotta stay forward, is that you want the parents within the school, or you want the parents outside of the school? Which is it? The question I ask this is because when Common Core came to town, they had radio ads for the Department of Education saying to ask them, the teachers, your leaders in the school, not go home, ask mom and dad. Come and ask us for Common Core. That was the commercial. And that was very disturbing for me because if it wasn't for my mom and my dad, it wasn't for my teachers, I wouldn't be here today. But when they took away that short period of time, teachers had to take time out of their work schedule to go relearn what they learned in college. So those are the kinds of stuff, even like with other stuff that I don't want to talk about, when it comes to the principals and the DOE, how much of the teachers and the principals actually get say on the curriculum? Because none of the teachers in Port Care Elementary, I'm gonna just say them, because they're all gone already, most of them, they transferred out. But all the teachers in Port Care Elementary, not one of those teachers like Common Core, not one. Every one of them, but they had to do it. So how we can have the Board of Education and the Department of Education work together with the teachers and the community is start ping-ponging around, because there's pointing the fingers in every direction, but it actually falls upon the school and the teachers teaching the curriculum that they don't have the passion to teach. And that's something to me is troubling. So I'm just asking that going forward. I mean, I know you guys gonna work good, you guys all new, but please, don't play ping pong. Maybe you guys go play pickleball or something. Maybe that'll be a little bit different. But you see what I'm saying? Yeah?
I think, Senator, the one thing is, it's again, communication, like you're saying. We were, or I shouldn't say we, but I was a teacher, okay? So, and I'm a lot older than you are. I'm a 71 grad, so I got a few years. But in the Department of Education, we went through the same thing you're talking about, trying to determine curriculum, what we're gonna do, how we're going to spend the time. I mean, at one point in time, social studies, you had 4 years. You had to take 4 years of social studies. It went down to 2. As a social studies teacher, that's disturbing because, hey, that's my job. I'm going to lose my job because you're cutting classes.
That's also civics education.
Yes, that's correct. Civics, there was a whole bunch of things.
Yes.
But why? Because then it became the focus on, English. Everybody's going to college. And I think right now we're looking at things and saying, college is great, but is it for every single child? It may not be, but is an education that is in, let's say, carpentry, plumbing, does that make a person not viable or, a good citizen? And it's not. It's the interest that they have, the passion that they have for education. And I think that's what we're trying to build. The system is trying to get to that point where, some of us, looking at, Senator Richards, he's very successful, as far as went through college, got his, doctorate, but he's also a rancher. So he found a passion that he has. And that's the same kind of thing that we need to do for all the students.
Thank you for that. Now I kind of understand. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Further questions?
Thank you, Mr. Cry, for being here. I think we all too had some great conversations. I think a lot of it was around facilities, and I'll just ask one part, and this will allow you to get some stuff onto the public record. So I guess there is a lot going on in the DOE with facilities, and in your position as the chairmanship that you hold currently on the board, I think you have a big say in how we move forward. I think the position that we're in now is not ideal. I think in your questionnaire, you said you finally now have a better handle on DOE's Office of Facilities and Operations, which is a little bit concerning because we should have always had a handle on that area moving forward. But I think it is what it is. We lapsed what we needed to lapse, and I think we need to move forward. But I know you propose some, things that will help us get better, with your new programming. But what is your definition of success in facilities? And from a policy standpoint, how will you be pushing to get us to that definition of success?
I think, for me, if you're looking at facilities, facilities are like the cornerstone of the learning environment. It's basic needs. It's providing every student a safe environment, an environment that they can be proud of. I think the way we get to that is, again, working with the department to ensure that the monies that are being provided, there is specific steps that are going to be, taken. Things like the CIP monies. We cannot receive that money and wait 2 years to decide to use it. We need to determine, as soon as that money comes into our coffers, the DOE coffers, what are we going to do with it? Is it sufficient? Like, Senator Kim is saying, there's not enough money, then why didn't the department say something?
I would say it was enough money, but because the project took so long and delayed, there was cost
Right.
increases that was not
And
built
that,
into the
and that's what I'm saying, that money at that time may have been sufficient, but because we didn't start immediately with the process, then it becomes inefficient, or I shouldn't say inefficient, but insufficient to, complete the project. So we need to ensure that when that time comes, the money's provided. Is that sufficient to fund the project? Do we need to set up a system or way in order to have that contract in place? Do we need to have people work together to determine, yes, we can, create a plan and move forward? And then ensure that when we encumber it, we're going to be able to pay that thing off.
So from a policy perspective, when can we make sure that we see this action taking place?
Well, the hope is, now that we're, in this situation, that this Oreo plan that we're proposing, that we're working on currently, is going to be an immediate, step that we're going to take to see that.
So 6 months, 1 year?
Well, I'm hoping, it's immediate. I mean, is it going to be completed, the 6 phases in a year? I mean, like anything else, I think it's, steps that are going to take place. And try to ensure that, the projects that are in place are going to be, done specifically within that time period that's provided.
Okay, so if we come back in a year, when we have the next legislative session, should we see some type of improvement?
I want to promise you that, and I will.
Well, I think what we would expect to hear is that you would try your best to push
I mean,
forward
that's, but,
as a board
I think,
member.
yes. I don't think, we're saying we want to just sit back and wait and see what happens. There is an effort on our part, and superintendent will be very upfront with you, as far as the lapsing of funds. He took responsibility, on himself, which to me is unfair. It's part of our responsibility as a board too, to take the bulls by the horn, if you want to call it that, to get things done and work together with the superintendent and the people within the department to make sure that, the funds are spent appropriately and in a timely manner.
Yeah, no, I think that's all we're asking is that we
Yes.
fix this problem. I think we will continue to be the biggest supporters of DOE projects, but I think the problem is at some point we need people to execute it, and
Right.
we want to be there to help you, support
Right.
you in that effort to do that. But at a certain point, you need to tell us what is the problem, right? Is it better people? Is it reorg? What is it, right? And so I think if this Oreo thing is what you're going to stake, your solution to, that's fine. But I think as a board, we just want to make sure that there's incremental progress. And if it's not working, we got to try something different.
Right. I think like anything else, I mean, as we go through this process, if there are things that are not working, yes, we need to change. We need to inform legislature if there's concerns that we have also, so that you folks know upfront. I mean, you shouldn't be caught at the last minute like this thing with the, lapsing funds, to know that there's a problem. I mean, it is what it is, but, it needs to be better.
Okay, well, I look forward to this, making progress on this. I think the first step is saying that you're going to work on it. I think maybe it wasn't the top of mind for a lot of people, but now it is. And so
Yes.
now we just got to make sure we fix it.
Yes.
So thank you for your continued leadership. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Other questions, members? If not,
Oh, thank you.
thank you. For GM 712, for the nomination of William Arakaki.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Senate Education Committee.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to share my thoughts and ideas and a little bit about myself. Like Board Member Kuraya, I was a teacher, coach, vice principal, complex care superintendent. And, during that time too, I have 8 grandchildren, 3 on Kauai that are now the next generation of learners that really need this support with all of you and the system like the DOE. My passion has always been supporting the keiki, being in the system, and I'll continue every way I can to support and, hear the many things that is being expressed today to be part of the board. Being on a second term, we have great opportunity to really implement what has been worked upon together with superintendent on a strategic plan. So, we're going over some things, but the next step is really seeing what the data is as far as what's happening. So, that's a little bit about myself, and I thank you so much, and I'm ready to answer any questions or my thoughts.
Thank you. Stay right there. We're going to call this, I found my list, so. Superintendent, please.
Afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Keith Hayashi, Superintendent. Department stands on written testimony in support of Star Hawai'i. Thank you.
Thank you. David Miyashiro.
Aloha, we stand on our testimony in support, and did want to note that Mr. Arakaki is proving he's willing to meet with stakeholders and community members outside of the regularly scheduled board meeting, so he's taking the extra step.
Thank you. Sherry Nakamura.
Yes, we also stand in support of our.
Thank you. Kate Stanley.
I'd like to say one thing that I've been impressed by with Warkaki's participation on the board, that he is a very kind person. That doesn't mean he's ineffective. It means he's kind, and that has a lot to be said in times when we need some kindness.
Thank you, Kate. Kahea Faria on Zoom.
Not present on Zoom, Chair.
Thank you. And we have a number of written testimony in support. At this point, members, questions?
I was the lead off. Anybody else wants to lead off?
No. Why don't you lead off, Madam Vice President?
Mr. Arakaki, so you've been on the board for one term,
Yes.
and during that one term, a number of the issues we've talked about have occurred. So how do you justify all of that?
What was the issues again?
The issues on financial literacy, the issues on how to find out all the expenses and stuff, that money is being spent for DOE. Is it effective? Is it worthwhile? Should we be continuing on this path? So for the past 4 years, is it 4 years that you've been on the board?
3 years.
2 years?
Yes.
Yeah, so how have you held the administration accountable? And do you feel that you're getting the information that you need to make these decisions?
Thank you so much for the question, and definitely, being in the 3 years, I was the vice chair for the Student Achievement Committee, and this year I am the Student Achievement Chair. And one of the great things that had happened was I was very fortunate to have Vice Chair Lauren Moriarty work with me, and one of the ways that we have been working with the Department of Education is prior to because you talked about the agenda, things coming out, within not enough time to look over the presentations. But what we've developed as far as establishing what's going to be an agenda for a meeting, we have planning meetings, I call it, or briefings with the department and others that are within to the subject area. And we sit with them and we look at what they're presenting and ask questions, and why is this, why is that, what's missing, how is the public, going to understand what is being presented. So we've done this year with the SAC meetings. Now, what has occurred is that, when we go into our meetings, and again, thank you to the testifiers about all the many areas, there was, discussion, and I see David here. We talked about financial literacy at one of our meetings. We talked about the computer science. We talked about other areas that needed to be done. So what's going to happen is, as we plan for our other meetings, there's going to be, DOE is looking into how it is very important. These topics or curriculum or content is very important, Now, how do we embed it or change things within the system? So a report will be coming out because we have to look at our graduation requirements. Graduation requirements has been around for a while. So how would that look like as far as changing that? Now, again, the DOE is collaborating and discussing this matter with various stakeholders, not only the teachers, principals, and others, but also people in the community and so on. So, 1986 grad, and back then to now, what is the skills or the learning that they need to know so that they can succeed in life? It's not only about college readiness, it's about career readiness. So how is that working, within the system? Now with that is, okay, we're not talking only about high school, it's a K-12 construct, meaning what's happening at the early elementary, middle elementary, middle school, and high school. So how do we, in the DOE, if you visit schools, because one of my things is, I do visit, thank you to Mr. Amara at the complex superintendent on Kauai. He's allowed me to go with them on school visit, they call it walkthroughs. And this year, thankful, Kaz Dejima has allowed me to visit schools at Campbell Kapolei. And Kaz Dewitt has allowed me to be visiting schools in her district too. So it's very, for me, to be able to see, to be able to hear, and look at what's happening on the ground level. And with that, then I can bring up the questions and so on. So with the board meetings and, the big topic areas, but we really need to go out to the field and to see what's happening with that, because it's very important to address those matters. So when the DOE comes back with, okay, how can we look at as far as the requirements to make it that we can do? But like you said, there's not enough hours in a day. There's all that graduation part that's there already. We cannot add more to that. So what kind of change do we need to do so that our students will be prepared for the next generation and workforce and what's going to happen in the world today? And, in Hawaii, which is very important for them to succeed.
Mr. Akaki, you brought up really good points, and I think it is important to visit the schools, important to know what is going on. But, you talked about skills to be successful in life.
Yes.
Okay? It just makes me kind of laugh to myself, because these basic skills, I don't care what generation we're in, it doesn't change. It doesn't change that you need to know how to balance the book, your checkbook, how to figure out, your charges. And if you don't pay your charge card, if you only pay the minimum, it's going to take you 11 years to pay it back because of all the fees. I mean, there's basic things in life that hasn't changed. And so, you guys talked about, we talked about this, we talked about that. There's a lot of talk that goes on, but those basic things haven't changed. And so, yes, there is a graduation requirements, but how do you have these kids be successful so they can enter college, not just necessarily having a GPA or necessarily being able to pass the SAT and have a high score in SAT, but can they manage with other students? Can they get along? Can they make decisions? Can they figure things out? And those are the things that are lacking. And a lot of that also that's lacking, and it's not the school's fault, but it's the family, the breakdown of the family and the family values. And part of it is, we want to get the child into preschool, get the child into early education, and they lack some of the family values, some of the family basics that they would learn at home. So they rely on the teachers to teach the children that. And that's not the teacher's necessarily job. It's why we wonder about our teachers and why we can't keep our teachers, because they have to be nurses, they have to be counselors, they have to give medication, they have to change diapers, they have to do all kinds of things that they didn't sign up to do. And so it's not just the pay, but it's the work that now they're required to do because of this breakdown that we have. But so to say that the basic things in life to be successful have to compete against everything else that you're looking for graduation requirements, to me, that's crazy. And you shouldn't have to discuss it for years. We should be able to determine that and say, these are basic stuff you got to know.
Yeah. Yes, thank you for that. I'm really excited and waiting to see what the results will be from their research on that. And it's not only academics, like you said, It's about the social emotional learning, the mental health, and all these things that go on for the whole child to develop them. So yes, a lot of it we have the
So what if the
teachers.
survey says it's not important? What if the
Well-
survey comes out and say, no, financial literacy not important compared to, STEM? Well, then what are you guys going to do? I mean,
Well-
sometimes these surveys doesn't necessarily reflect what is going on, practicality.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting because when you visit schools, you see different. They implement financial literacy in different ways. It may be a course, it may be through a pathway in which they do the integrated curriculum within the classes. So there's many things that are being done. So I'm sure the survey will indicate that schools feel this is very important. So how can we support them and see what they say as far as making it?
But does it achieve what is necessary? Just because it's brought up in other ways, in other curriculum,
Yeah.
can a child understand the stock market? Can they understand about the interest rates for the credit card? That kind of specific things are not necessarily intertwined into some of these other so-called financial literacy lessons that might occur. So again, that really got to get back to the basics and not
Yes.
to the abstract.
Yeah, and they just went over. We were able to look with the DOE the key performance indicators, which is a measurement that is used. So how do we with that make sure that how does it align to if the student is doing financial literacy and things
I'm
like
going to
that?
ask you and all the board members, can you guys apply common sense to a lot of this stuff
Yeah.
and not necessarily indicators, that we rely upon these I don't know, AI or whatever it is, applications to tell us what the indicators are, that can we apply basic common sense to some of this stuff so we can get back down to the basics?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, we don't take questions from the.
I did submit written testimony, and I also indicated I wanted to testify.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, let's finish with the nominee, please. Mr. Arakaki, which committees do you currently sit on the board?
I sit I'm the chair for the Student Achievement Committee. I'm also a member of the FIC, Finance Infrastructure and HR Human Resources. I'm also part of the CTE, CCAC, Career Technology Advisory something. I'm also working with the HSTA and HGA as far as negotiations. I'm part of the Charter School Commission group. Also with the Legislative Investigative and Ad Hoc Committee, which I learned a lot talking to many of our elected officials on what they're looking at and what needs as far as introducing bills.
Thank you. So is this issue about financial literature something that has been discussed on the board?
Yes, we have, and we will continue to work with the department as far as what needs to be done, and amongst, again, in compliance to the Sunshine Law, how do we, understand what that is all about? And financial literacy and also computer science and the others are just as important too. So definitely, it is something that's going to be coming up again on probably it's because it involves student achievement, it will be on a SAC committee agenda and presentation.
Because it'll also come up again in this committee. actually.
Yes,
So
yes,
I'm
definitely.
just, saying that. This is how many years in a row we've discussed this, and I know it's a difficult issue as to how to plan the curriculum to include financial literacy and, what do we have to give up? But are there, I guess, meetings that you guys are invited to across the United States for like other Board of Education?
Yeah, fortunately, I was part of the NASB, National Board of Education. I attend their conferences and so on. So there's opportunity for us to attend, and also on Kauai, because Kauai is so small, I support and work with the Kauai Economic Development Board. We have other nonprofit groups that ask these kind of questions and how we can really ensure that our students are succeeding not only going to college, but in the workforce and in life. Life meaning some of them, are looking at different ways to get their families and succeed. So, what the students' dreams and aspirations are, how do we ensure that they're able to attain that?
Yeah. So I guess my ask for your membership on the board and other board members is to look at if there are counties across the United States that have managed to include financial literacy in their curriculum and how they did it, and how long it took for them to implement that.
Yeah.
So that's your homework for us.
Thank you. I got homework.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Yeah, quick
Senator
one.
Richards.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And Mr. Arkaki, thanks for our visit.
Yeah.
Good, long, tough story. We discussed the size of DOE relative, and we're a bit unusual. Also looking through the testimony, looks like you're a real boots on the ground, that you go out and you go look, and I appreciate that. Our structure for DOE, from the board perspective, and Superintendent, I think you got a very engaged board, so I want to commend you on that one. Is there a better way we can engage? So, and we discussed rural schools getting enough attention. I know you worked on Kauai, so just a quick thought on that one.
Yes, definitely. How do we provide the opportunity for schools that may not have come present or talk to our board members? I know you folks go visit them a lot. So how do we, and Tammy Chan just talked to me about, how do we enable each complex area to have the opportunity to share their successes and things that we can share within the board at a meeting. So right now, it's all a presentation, with all the data and things. But again, the important part is about having the schools, the principals, teachers, or whomever, even the students especially, to be able to share. So one of the meetings will be dedicated to, we have 15 complex areas. I know there's only 12 months in a year, but how do we provide that opportunity for the ones that are way off and cannot really come here, but provide them the time and effort to see that they can come and share their things.
And I appreciate that, but it's not just to share the good, it's to share the bad and
yes,
the ugly
yes,
too. And that's why I think boots on the ground, when you actually go look, sometimes that'll save you hours and hours and hours of testimony if you just see something, so.
What's interesting is I'm also allowed to attend principals and education officers meetings. There's many events and activities that I was able to attend. And, when you're there, people would tell you, especially on Kauai, you go to the store, hey, Mr. Arkaki, kind of thing. So I think, how do we have that relationship that we can build with everyone here, and not only on the neighbor islands, but here on Oahu. So, taking the opportunity to visit with the other CASs and the different areas has been very, even though I worked at Waipahu High School, and, at different areas, it's the change in what's happening in each area is different from back, even 3 years ago. So to be able to really be boots on the ground and to listen, hear, and see I think is very valuable as a board member.
And I would encourage you to expand on that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Otani, do you want to provide testimony?
Yeah, honorable members of the Hawaii State Senate, my name is Mitchell Otani.
Come forward. Come closer.
Thank you, Chair. I was appointed to the principalship in 1991 and have served in that capacity for the past 33 years, the last 14 as principal of Kalani High School, my alma mater. I stand on my written testimony in support of the reappointment of Mr. William Arakaki to the Hawaii State Board of Education.
Thank you very much for that. Members, questions? Questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Oh, not for that kind. I have questions for the guy with the green shirt.
Okay.
Hold on, I get questions for you, not the guy with the green shirt. Oh, no, not you,
Again, red pop.
Mr. Arakaki.
Sorry.
In the one green shirt. Just going forward, I mean, I understand you have time, but I know you belong to a lot of things on Kauai, because Kauai is small and everybody volunteers for a lot of things. But you're gonna find time to, the dedication that you and you have obviously showed that you have, continue to do what you need to do for the Board of Education.
Yeah, interesting because, when the appointment issue came up, I had to talk to my daughter because I have 3 grandchildren on Kauai. And our youngest grandchildren of the 8, he's 2.5 years old. I've been watching him since birth. So whenever I don't have meetings or I don't visit schools or whatever it is, I babysit him. Oh, Papa, where are you? Kind of thing. But anyway, I've told her that depending on what happens, and because of the love for the keiki and the community and so on, I'm gonna not be able to watch Zen as much, and that it's because we're here. I'm here to support education because again, it's the children, the students that are now that may be seniors or whatever they're graded in, and it's also the next group of preschool, all these ones coming up. That how can we really ensure and make it happen for them, because Hawaii is a great place. Superintendent is doing such a great job. We just need to, provide that support and look at the data and hear the voices to what's going to happen. So I am committed to that. Yeah.
So how important you think signing your name, not just signing your name, but actually writing, actually writing things out, writing one story on a piece of paper. Because it blew my mind, of course, this is a long time ago, 20 years, right? When my daughter started school, I was all excited, so I go buy all those books, right?
Yeah.
Follow and trace. So I sent the book to school with her. And they said, we don't need those. We don't do that anymore. So my daughter had a hard time writing her name when she was in intermediate, for sign her name, because everything was digital. You just go on the pad thing that they had, right? With technology, boom, sign your name, initial your name. So that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about even now. Now that they're bringing up one bank account, they cannot just press one button and sign your name. You actually got to go in there, sign your name. So I just wanted to know going forward how important that making sure that at least that when the kids graduate high school, besides being economically intelligent, but just graduating, be able to sign your name. That's very important because I was shocked that most of her classmates could not sign their name.
Yes.
And there was already junior in high school. They couldn't sign their name because all they did was computer. To this day, everything is on the computer to sign, but how important do you think going forward if we're going to be teaching economics? And, Senator Kim make me laugh because she used the word charge card, bank account, checkbook. Kids don't want to know what is a charge card, but going forward, that's important to know how to balance these things because a lot of kids in my age and below, a lot of them filed for bankruptcy. In 10 years or 7 years out of high school, a lot of them went bankrupt. And that's something that I noticed today is a trend. They're not trying to pay off the debt, and I say they're doing it purposely, but they're not trying to pay off the debt. They're so in debt, they're so frustrated that they just file bankruptcy. I'm not planning to buy one car, not planning to buy one house. I'm single, just claim bankruptcy. And that's happening a lot in the trend. So, going forward, there's something that to think about how important that these little tools that we had graduating back in the days are important to this generation because if you look at it, under age 25, maybe I'll go get the statistics for you guys.
Yeah.
Under 25, how much guys on your file for bankruptcy? Yeah. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so
Members,
much.
we have 3 more GMs to go through, so moving forward, GM 713, submitting for consideration, gubernatorial nominee Wesley Lowe for a term to expire 6/30/2027. Welcome, Wesley.
Madam Chair, Senators, thank you for your consideration for me for the Board of Education. Just some quick background on myself. I'm a Pake banker by trade. I ended up moving from banking into county government for several years, and somehow I got roped into healthcare, which has been quite a journey for me. So I've been in various healthcare organizations for probably about the last 20 years. Most of it as running around the Maui Memorial Medical Center, as well as I run large post-acute care network throughout the state of Hawaii. I'm looking forward to be on the Board of Education, although despite some of the questions I had of why I'm doing this, but I'm excited. I certainly have my personal stories about education and seeing the success stories, but I think that as I've gone through my career and evolved, I'm realizing the importance, to Senator Hashimoto's point, of the workforce and the workforce development and the communities we serve. And so I'm looking forward to, I think healthcare and education are the building blocks of society. And if we could do it all over again, I think those are the two areas that we should concentrate on. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Members, questions? Oh, testimony. Sorry. Is there further testimony? Kitayashi, I'm looking for my list. Okay.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Kitayashi Superintendent, testifying about the department. We stand on our written testimony in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm on the wrong page. Paige Choi. Thank you. David Miyashiro. Sherry Nakamura. Kate Stanley.
Support.
Thank you. Jonathan Ching.
Hi, Chair, Vice Chair Jonathan Ching, speaking on my own behalf, stand in strong support of Mr. Lowe's nomination to the Board of Education.
Thank you. Members, we also have 22 testimonies in support. Questions, members? No questions? Senator Richards.
Yeah, thank you. Again, another good conversation we had. We've had educators coming before us. Now we have a different lens. Can you expand on that a little bit, bringing what your thoughts are as far as for the Board of Education, your perspective as we go into this? We've heard about fiscal management and all that. We've heard about project management and moving the needle relatively quickly. But from your perspective, from a business perspective, please.
Madam Chair, Senator Richards, in regards to fiscal management and project management, I think it's a journey. When I was on the Board of Education in 2011, I was not prepared for the size of the organization. And then over my years, I was, although a large organization, it was a singularly focused organization, Memorial Medical Center. That has some complications, but a lot different than Department of Education. Over the last several years, I've now oversee about 13 different facilities as well as multiple more operations, which still pales in comparison to the Department of Education. I think from a fiscal management standpoint, there's a danger of getting too deep into the weeds at a board level because it's so large. And I do think that you have to have metrics that allow you to determine outliers and then allow you to drill down from that. And I do think that there needs to be a project management methodology. It sounds like they're on their way to do that, so that there's span of control, and then there's reports that roll up to you that you can see progress, and it's a cultural thing. I mean, for those who study organization charts, you have a span of control, and everybody needs to have a cultural responsibility around accountability, et cetera. That's where the breakdown can occur. So I think that what do they say is you measure, you get better. And I do think that there needs to be measurements, although I do worry about measurements because they have to be appropriate measurements. They can't be just counts. They have to be either process measures or outcome measures. And I think that's going to be the complexities of this. I don't have the answer to it, but I've thought about it. And I don't want this to turn into where the board is drilling down to the minutia. But I think that if the variances are such that you need to drill down to it, you're notified of that, and there's a culture of transparency that has to roll up to the board, ultimately the board to the superintendent. And I'll answer your question or not.
Yeah, that actually, and I agree with you, because as a board, you should be setting policy, not micromanaging. But there should be a metric in there, and I agree with that statement. the ability to, okay, there is a big problem and we're not going to ignore it. We're here to help facilitate it. So I like that perspective. And I think that's a facet that you bring from the private sector. That's a different lens that we're looking at that. I like the fact that we have educators, because you know where the problems have been and you know how to dig. And then a private industry side where we can put those metrics in place. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. Further questions?
Just full disclosure, I met with Mr. Law at length and went over all of those questions, so he's not getting off easy. Questions?
Mr. Lowe, you, in the response to the questions that we asked, you described 6 core responsibilities for the board. Can you briefly elaborate on the financial oversight and how you plan to create appropriate measurements?
Chair Kidani, much like I explained to Senator Richards, I think financial oversight, you need to start with a broader level of metrics that come up, but you need to look at variances. Back in 2011, I think I did not do a good job, but one of the issues was transportation and school bus services. And I think that, over the next year, frankly, process measures have to be built on how you're going to get to a point of having outcome measures. I think that there's a lot that needs to be learned. I think they use the terms A and B accounts, salaries and expenditures, and trying to look at what those measures are, where the variances are. And I do think, agree, and I'm not sure exactly how to approach it. There are certain areas that there are some expenses that may not hit the thresholds, but we need to figure that out. So I think that part of it is going to be developing these metrics from a financial perspective. I also think that to Senator Kim's comment about some certain expenses, I talked a little bit about culture. I think that there needs to be authority limits. I'm sorry, I worked at a bank. You have authority limits, and people are held accountable to those authority limits. So when there's an expenditure, they should know why they're expending it, and if it's expensive, I know that I have to explain to my boss. If something's very expensive, I better be able to tell him why. Whether it's right or wrong, I just need to be able to justify that. So I think that it is building this layering. It's not so simple of just looking at financial statements and metrics. It's looking at that and building authority levels, policies and procedures, and layering it down. I don't think it's going to be easy. Senator Hashimoto, I would say that I'm not sure it's going to take a long time to develop that. I've been involved with performance-based budgets, and they take forever and keep on evolving from year to year. But I think that over this next year, I think that you start making progress towards them, and you have specific process measures on how you're going to get there. As it relates to the, I suspect there might be some thoughts on capital improvement things. I think that has to be rolled up. I do think that there should be consistent reports that flow up to the board. Again, not with huge amounts of detail, but enough so that there's visibility to the board, and therefore you measure, you get better. And then we should concentrate on the things that matter to the Senate, to the legislators. For example, I think they even have a report related to funds that are going to lapse, et cetera, or project costs, et cetera. And so I think that you need to build these reports. I think that we need to find high-level metrics and consistent reporting to create that culture of accountability. That was a long answer for nothing, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Members, further questions?
Can I just add a comment? Thank you for thinking about that and coming up with, hopefully what those metrics might be. I think it's important that we have that. And certainly the amount of time that you're given to review the budget, I'm not sure how much time that the board, I should have asked somebody that served, how much time they actually spend on looking at the budget, because we in the legislature spend not enough time going over the past budgets, but just all the new stuff. And, that's why I've been an advocate of zero-based budgeting for my whole career. That's never come about, but to look back and say, we gave you all this money, maybe you don't need it anymore. Maybe things have changed. We don't need that much bricks and mortars anymore, right? So to be able to do that, so I appreciate that side of your experience to bring that to the board, so thank you.
Thank you. Senator.
Thank you, Chair. I just, not really a question, Wes, but just I wanted to thank you for stepping up and being willing to serve. Full disclosure, Wes is a constituent of mine, but I think he truly cares about the Maui community and his time is very precious. And so I think helping us on the Board of Education, I think is something that I'm very appreciative of you doing. I think we could use your expertise, especially in the area of facilities. And so I think hopefully they'll put you to good use. So, hopefully the BOE chair back there is listening. I think hopefully we can move the needle. As you said, I think you know what the realities are and you know how hard it is to fix some of these things, but hopefully you're committed and we'll see some progress coming up. So thank you, Wes.
Thank you. Thank you, members. Thank you, Wes. Our next nominee is GM 714, submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Board of Education, nominee Elin Chung, for a term to expire 6/30/2026. Members, nominee Elin Chung could not be with us today because of a prior commitment on the mainland. However, I want to assure you, I do know her personally. She has been a principal at the Mililani area and most recently at Mililani Middle School. Taught my children and now some of my grandchildren. And as a principal at Mililani Middle School, she's a highly respected member of the school community, and students, including my own grandchildren, very much appreciated her guidance and her concerns. With that, members, questions? Ask me.
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah, can you go sit over there?
You're too young to be having grandchildren.
Oh, thank you. I'm not sure what he wants. Thank you. Yes, so to testify, Superintendent, please.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Hitayashi Superintendent, testifying on behalf of the department. We stand our written testimony in support of this.
Thank you. David Miyashiro.
Chair, Vice Chair, member of the committee, we stand on our written testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry Nakamura.
Yes, we also stand in support.
Thank you, Sherry. Kate Stanley.
In support.
Thank you, Kate. We also have written testimony from about 11 people, all in support. I suppose there's no questions for any of their testimonies. Thank you. Moving on. Is this our last one? GM 735, submitting for consideration confirmation as the chairperson, Board of Education, gubernatorial nominee Roy Takumi for a term to expire 6/30/2026. Can you please come to the hot seat?
Testify.
Oh, yeah,
He wants to
I'm
drag
sorry.
it out as long as he can.
To testify. Sorry. Oh, my gosh, it's been a long day. Superintendent, please.
Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Hitayashi Superintendent, testifying on behalf of the department. We stand on a written testimony in support of Mr. Takumi. Vice Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. David Miyashiro.
We stand in support.
Sherry Nakamura.
Oh my goodness. When she comes forward, I don't know.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Sherry Nakamura, Director of He'e Coalition. We support the nomination of Roy Takumi. For those who don't know us, we're a coalition that advocates strongly for educational equity, i.e. our struggling students. We do this because we feel somebody needs to speak up for those that do not have a voice. Our experience with former Ed Chair Takumi tells us that he is aligned with us on this priority. We also believe that DOE and all state departments need to use taxpayer dollars efficiently. To ensure this, we have worked on projects with members in this committee to urge the DOE to be transparent with data and show that resources are being used judiciously with impact. We know that Chair Takumi is on the same page on this as well. Finally, we want to see improvement in all aspects of DOE, and most importantly, improvement in outcomes of our students. This was also a consistent theme for Chair Takumi as Ed Chair, and we are excited to have him continue this theme as BOE Chair. We urge the committee to confirm his nomination. Mahalo for this opportunity.
Thank you, Sherry. Kate?
In support, I've known Roy a long time, and I've supported him, and I don't think you could get a better nomination for chair.
Thank you, Kate. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify?
Aloha, members of the Senate Education Committee. My name is Danson Honda, and I am testifying in support of Roy Tukumi's nomination to the Board of Education. I believe his legislative experience can help bring a positive change. For decades, not just a few years, there has been an ongoing debate of whether the BOE is the sole authority to set graduation requirements, and if unintended consequences might happen if the legislature steps in. Meanwhile, generations of students, myself included, have gone off into the real world without necessary life skills such as financial literacy and had to learn through mistakes. We suffered the actual consequences. During this history, there was at least 4 different superintendents and 12 BOE chairpersons. Mr. Tukumi, you were the chair of education for many of those years and are intimately familiar with this discussion. And I hope that through action, you can show that advocates such as myself don't need to keep coming back to the legislature and requesting bills to be introduced. 25 states have already committed to teaching financial literacy as a grad requirement. We're the highest cost of living state in the nation, and it doesn't help that we're also one of the least financially educated. I hope everybody in this room, we can all work together to help change that. Mahalo for your consideration.
Thank you. We needed your voice.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify? We do also have a number of written testimonies, all in support. Members, questions? Mr. Takumi,
I don't even get you on that seat.
how does it feel to be on the other side of the table?
Making the chair not plugged in. Questions?
Opening remarks, none?
Oh, opening remarks. Yeah. Well, you have my background information, and I have experienced a kind of a vacuum with the Department of Education because I was the ed chair 5 years ago. Because when I went from being the ed chair to the Consumer Protection Committee chair for 3 years, and then I've been out of office for almost 2 years. So a lot has happened in the department in the past 5 years. A lot has happened in the legislature in the past 2 years. So, and I found out that I would have this opportunity 3.5 weeks ago. So it's all come pretty fast. I was happily retired. And, but I think I decided to agree to do it because for the same reason you all are in public office as well, because public service is a calling. And I feel very strongly about that. So I realized the time commitment that this involves. And my daughter lives in Las Vegas, and my wife and I, we go to Vegas kind of often. And so I told my wife, I think I'm not going to be able to go to Vegas that often. She said, I can always go by myself. That's what happens when you're married that long, So she's going to go by herself, I think. But this will be my only public service commitment as far as any board or commission. So I know I can dedicate myself to whatever it takes to make the board operate in the way it's supposed to operate. So, you want me to address your questions? Financial literacy?
Yes, well, let me just say that I am pleased, like the others, that the governor appointed you. Having worked with you and realizing all that, you've done while you were ed chair, it's like riding the bike, you probably get back on and you're right in tune with it. But I think it's important that the perspective that we have been sharing and that I've said to other boards that, if the board do their job of the oversight, then we don't have to, because we don't want to. A lot of bills that are introduced, I ask, do we really need this measure? Can't you folks do it anyway? Why do you need us to tell you? And I think you're in that position that you understand that. And so having heard the discussion, which is not new to you, you've heard this discussion. And for me, who've been around for, I'm not going to say how many decades, but it's the same thing over and over. So if I come over as being impatient or being like, it needs to happen right away, it's because it's lingered. And I've heard board members come and go say the same thing. You say, oh yeah, we're going to hold them accountable, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But at the end of the day, they leave and it's not done. It don't get done. So I'm glad to see you there, and I'm going to hold you accountable. I have your phone number, I have your cell number.
And she knows where you live.
I know.
I don't know if I know where you live. But so I hope that these issues get addressed. And, and I know your word is good, and that you wouldn't take this position if you didn't think you could do it. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Members for the
Sure.
Senator Richards.
Yeah, thank you. We haven't had a chance to talk story yet.
Right.
But we are going to.
Right. Good.
And I appreciate, you've heard a lot of the comments, questions, conversation this afternoon. Your reflection on what we've talked about. We've talked about financial literacy, obviously, but we've also talked about direction, facilities, briefly touched on bullying. Just a few comments.
Yeah, well, as far as bullying goes, the department does have a very good policy on bullying as well. But I wanted to talk about the strategic plan that the department has. It's a 25-page document. I'm sure all the members of the committee have read that document. There's 127 action items in that document. And so I think as a board, and all the members here are committed to that, is to hold the department accountable to those 127 action items. And in those action items, you have task forces and working groups and assessments and reviews and so on and so forth. It's a lot. It's very ambitious. And I think the role of the board is to ensure that the department lives up to that document, first and foremost. And I really agree with what Board Member Lowe said, that you don't want the board to get too granular and really into the weeds on the operating side of the department, because it's really is a policy setting board. And so that strategic plan is the roadmap, and I expect that we'll have a lot of conversations at the board level and at the department level on trying to achieve all those action items.
Okay, and then just again, rural district, our rural schools. I think they're out of sight, out of mind more than they should be. Comments on that?
Yeah, when I first became ed chair, Representative Bob Herkes at the time said, you gotta come out to where I live. And so I jumped on a plane and went out to his district, and it really made me aware of, because his district is huge geographically. And we visited some of the schools in the district, and it really made me aware, very different from the schools in my district in Pearl City, right? And so I think the department is sensitive to that. The recent committee on weights decided to allocate an additional $6 million for small rural schools to be put into the weighted student formulas, so that these smaller schools have a little bit more cushion to operate in flexible dollars. Because as you know, Senator, the weighted student formula is to try to give schools as much flexibility and autonomy over their budgets. And so I have a lot of aloha for small rural schools. The challenge I think they always will have is capacity, right? Can they deliver the kind of the full range of programs and options that kids fortunate enough to go to urban schools have? So that's always good. That's why I'm also a big believer in distance learning, because that's where kids can get the opportunity to take classes online that they couldn't take in a bricks and mortar school because they just don't have the capacity.
And I agree with that to a point, but Big Island, a lot of these kids going to school, the place that they're eating is at school. If they're not attending the school, worry about their nutrition. And then transportation to get to school. And that's a huge problem on the Big Island.
On the Big Island.
So we're not going to solve that in this conversation, but I definitely want to have that conversation with you later.
Sure, anytime.
Because, we've talked about it's the next generation. That's what we're setting up for success. But if we don't take care of them early on, get the nutrition into them, get the education availability to them going forward, and really set them up for success, we're actually creating a problem for all of us in this room for that future. So I appreciate the comments, and my office will get together, we'll come up with the time.
Good.
Thank you, Chair.
Members, further questions?
Yep.
Senator Fedora.
How much time we have?
2 minutes.
Just joking. Anyway, It was really nice talking story with you. About,
Yeah, it was very good.
You know, and you
Senator.
have a very open mind. I'm hoping you're going to continue to keep that moving forward. But I want to touch on something on a little bit what Senator Richards said. I noticed when I went to the continent and seeing my brothers and my nieces' schools up there, something that we don't do here, but maybe in the rural areas like Hilo and certain parts of the different neighbor islands, because a lot of our schools, even in Ever Beach, a lot of our schools was on city and county property. And I'm not sure if the neighbor islands is too. We are one of the only states probably do not get any kickback help from the city. And going forward as a Board of Education and working with the rural schools in the other areas, working with legislation here and the counties in the rural schools should be putting up some funding too, because the infrastructure sucks. And when it sucks, the kids gotta get proper, usage of water and everything like that. So instead of just depending on the state and the kind that the rural areas and the neighbor islands should start looking into getting their county, because the county get plenty tourist kickback money, all these kind of, they should start paying their fair share for thinking that our kids are our future. During the pandemic, right, Rick said, Mayor Blangiardi said, we never lose money. And then he found $1 billion. I don't know if it was under Kurt Caldwell's pillow, but he found $1 billion. How you find $1 billion? You see what I mean? But they don't pay for education. We're the only state that don't have any city funds. And that should change because our kids on the rural areas, on the neighbor islands are suffering when the cities still collect their taxes. Whether we are in school or out of school, they collect their land tax. And that's what Rick said. He said, during the pandemic, we made money because everybody didn't pay their taxes on time because everybody was home. But how is that fair to the state, the DOE, and the Board of Education finding money to help guys like, Senator Richards in the rural areas? So I don't know if you guys can come to,
It's up to us, not to them.
oh, yeah. Okay, well, sorry, but I was dreaming.
Constitutional amendment.
Yeah.
Because they're not real states.
Yeah.
Okay, we better take some of the money back. I just wanted to top on one of the things, and it was just surprising me. So maybe the date might be wrong here, because you don't look like you was around in 1947, but you was at the Nobel Peace Prize for your service in America, Friends Servicing Committee. I don't like to ask you what age, but that's the correct date?
Yeah, they won the Nobel Prize in 1947.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't around.
Okay. All right, let's just check in.
Close to it, though.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, well, other than that, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, appreciate your open mind. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, members. We have a hard stop at 5:15, so other questions?
Thank you, Roy, for being here. I think I don't really have a question. We did talk at length before, but I think one of the big things that we hope gets fixed, like I said to every other nominee, is hopefully we can look at facilities, make sure we fix facilities, get that under control, utilize the people on the board to help you with that. I think that's going to be very important. I think what Way to Student Formula, Act 51, all those things that you were that was your brainchild back in 04, 03, 04, still very much alive. And so hopefully we can get a handle on that. And so you have no excuse, right, of not knowing what that policy was all about and how it's supposed to be
implemented. It's been 20 years,
implemented.
Senator. Yeah.
Right. And so I think that will be very important to get into, to make sure that, what else do we need to do to make the operations much smoother. And so, I think I'm glad that you're there. I think you know what needs to happen in terms of policy and oversight. So I look forward to the work that you produce and the leadership that you bring. I know there's going to be a lot of challenges, but hopefully we can make some fixes and see the needle move. So, you are my former colleague. I know where you come from. I actually testified before you in 04 and 05 when I was a student member and when you were the ed chair. And so I think we expect big things and hopefully we'll see some progress.
Tables have turned. I know.
So thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Senator.
Further questions, members? Okay, I have one question for you, Roy. So in your response to our questions, You noted that it's confirmed as chair, your role as chair is to hold the department accountable in measurable progress in the key performance indicators. Can you explain what you mean by
Yeah,
measurable?
you know, when you really distill what the board is responsible for, it's to hold the department accountable in the measurable outcomes. Did the graduation rate improve? Did the dropout rate go down? Is the college going rate or the career ready rate going up? So those are the things, and you know, if you look at the NAEP scores, there's been steady progress. And so I think I think we should all be cognizant of the fact that education reform is hard work and it's slow work. You know, if you improve the graduation rate even by 2%, that's considered, you win awards for that kind of stuff. And so I think when I say measurable outcomes, that's what I was alluding to.
Thank you. Having worked with you for so many years.
Yeah,
as
Senator, I
the
miss
Chair of the
that.
House Education Committee, I am really pleased to see your name here and look forward to working with you. And
So do
know
I.
that you will do a good job for not just the Department of Education, but for all of our students.
I
Thank you
appreciate
very
that.
much for serving.
Can I make one comment?
Sure.
So I
Financial
agree-
literacy, no.
Outcomes. So I agree with you on that. However, sometimes the outcomes itself doesn't then justify some of the expenditures, which I think needs to be lined out.
So,
So,
the cost benefit ratio.
Right.
I hear you.
Thank you.
I hear you.
Okay, thank you. Members, if there's no further questions, let's recess. Reconvening the Committee on Education. Okay, thank you, members. We are going to take all of the nominees in one vote because our committee members are in favor of all of our nominees and support all of our nominees. So with that, members, the vote is to take into consideration all of our nominees. Chair votes aye.
yeah, you want, okay, so Chair is recommending that we advise and consent on GM 520, GM 710, GM 711, GM 712, GM 713, GM 714, and GM 735. So if there are no objections, any members voting with reservations? Any member voting no? If not, the Chair, all members voting in the affirmative, so unanimous, your recommendation is adopted.
Great, thank you, members. This meeting's adjourned.